My name is Jack Grimmett. I'm also an assistant director on film sets, made about 50 movies, got the whole IMDb thing going on, but have never been more challenged than in front of an 11th grade classroom teaching them English. To de-stress from that, I indulge full on into pop culture and action figure collecting. And I have this inborn love for nostalgia. Toys have this timeless sensibility of innocence to them, and I really appreciate that. As you grow older, we tend to trade magic for fact, and you can't really go back on that trade. Toys hold on to that playfulness, and it's something that you can really embrace even as you age. There's a lot to toys that can keep you young. I'm definitely a mixed media artist of sorts. Started really young drawing, Ninja Turtles and Thundercats, moved on up to graffiti when I was about 12 or 13 years old. Born and raised in New York, so that was a huge culture, just the whole graffiti world. I think 10th or 11th grade, got arrested for graffiti, so had to come up with a new medium for a creative output. So I went into filmmaking, and that's where I became an assistant director. Still see my name getting up on the screen, that's pretty cool. Currently, I've been diving into some resin toy making, spray painting on canvas, do a lot of Dia de los Muertos altars, kind of just wherever my mind wanders, I follow. I was a surprise for my parents that happened 10 years after my older brothers. My brothers, they were into the old Star Wars and then Masters of the Universe and then Big Hair and Metallica. So I got all the hand-me-downs. I remember playing with, the little Ewoks and the little R2-D2s, but Star Wars didn't really become my world. I immediately fell in love with Masters of the Universe. Everything was just so random, and this Clawful's got a claw, then Grizzlor's got all the fur on his head. I became enamored with the different possibilities of characters there. Masters of the Universe started to fade out. I jumped on board of Thundercats, which I was fully engaged in. That the theme song would come on the TV, and I would just jump up and down on the couch like a maniac. I'd take out my Thundercats Sword of Omens, run around the house with it. It was awesome. 1988 hit, and we had Ninja Turtles, and we still have Ninja Turtles. And I have been full-blown fanomaniac of Ninja Turtles since they came out. I collect Ninja Turtles first and foremost. Collection goes all the way back to the 80s. Every group of kids since then has had their own version of the Ninja Turtles. Some of them sucked and some of them are amazing. Thundercats are the other ones. I have almost a full collection of Thundercats, missing out on Bengali and Pumaira. Outside of that, I'm kind of compulsive. I collect comic books and records and all sorts of other fun things. I love, more than anything, going yard sailing and stumbling across a treasure. Even if it's the most basic figure that I'm finding again for the 100th time, I buy it if it's in the wild, because it's like, whoa, it exists still. Buying things on the internet, I feel like there's a lot of price gouging. Not everything that's old is worth money, yet I'm still willing to pay for it because I want it. I mean, I've got like 10,000 things in my collection. My collection doesn't even solely exist in this state. There are things in New York and South Carolina. My family's spread out all across the country, and I kind of leave little bits of my collection everywhere that I go. I have pieces in my collection that are grails to people. I have a beat-up Thundercats lair. I have some Boglins, which seem to be hot items. The 2012 Ninja Turtle Muckman, I have 3 of those. That excites me. They were rare to get. I have one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Troll doll. I was interviewing to go to college at CW Post on Long Island. My counselor had the last name Laird. And so I chuckled. I was like, oh, cool, you know, you're related to the Ninja Turtles guy. And he goes, yeah, that's my brother. Mr. Laird pulled out of his desk this in the package, which the package is disintegrated now, but Raphael troll doll. And I was like, dude, no way, you're my counselor? He gave it to me. And so I like freaked out. Years later, I was at New York Comic-Con. Peter Laird was there. I told him that story, and sure enough, it was his brother. Yes, I met Peter Laird, but I was more excited to get this obscure troll from his brother on a random encounter. I'm trying to hunt out, you know, the rare Thundercats. It'd be nice to get Driller one day, probably never gonna happen. I've never, even when I was a little kid, owned Jaga, so I would like to own Jaga with a cape. That would be cool. Filling in the holes in my collection is like putting on a number onto the amount of tattoos that I have. Like there's no counting anymore. You're just like, oh yeah, there's toys and I need more. I was at San Diego Comic-Con and I was in the Marriott bar sitting with my friend John, and it was late. It was like 2 in the morning, and this round of applause just erupts. And I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And John's like, I don't know, it's probably Stan Lee or something. So I ran. I just ran to the noise. And I get to this hallway, and at the end of the hallway, about to get in an elevator, it's friggin' Stan Lee. And it's Stan Lee and these 2 giant goons. Rest in peace, Stan Lee was pretty lit for an older gentleman. And I ran up to him and I was like, Stan, I'm not crazy. I mean, like, I'm a little crazy, but I'm not like gonna hurt you crazy. Can I just take a picture before you go up to your room and go to bed for the night? Like, I don't care. Like, I'll jump in the elevator, you know, we could take a picture and your goons could throw me out on a random floor. I don't care. Stan was just like, all right, son, hop on in. And he took me in the elevator and he took a picture with me. And I was making the stupidest face in the world. This is a picture that I've made copies of to hang in my classroom, and it makes me glow thinking about more than anything. And I have the Marvel Zombies tattooed on me. Stan saw them and he was like, what do you have here? He's like, oh my goodness, that's Excelsior. And I'm like, all right, I'm dying happy. The following day after meeting him, we're walking around the floor at Comic-Con. There's some weird anime book signing that's a manga that Stan Lee put out. Got my ticket and I ran and I bought the first old X-Men comic that I could find. And it's the first appearance of the Mimic. I waited online, it's my turn. You're not supposed to get anything but the manga signed, but I was like, dude, whatever. So he signed the manga, and then I just slip him the comic book. And he picks it up and he lights up, because I think this is one that he actually wrote. And he was like, I remember this, it's the first appearance of the Mimic. He's not just one X-Man, he's all of them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome, dude. So he signed it for me. Keep in mind that when I met him the night before, it was like 2 in the morning and Stan was drinking all night. So I'm like, Stan, you know, I'm surprised to see you made it here this morning. You were up late last night. And he's like, kid, I've been at this a lot longer than you have. And I was just like, I love Stan Lee more than anything. What does the rest of the world think of my collecting? For starters, my parents spoiled the crap out of me. Pretty much led me to like every genre of action figures growing up. My older brothers seem like they kind of caught the bug in their own areas. The biggest supporter of it all is my wife. Alicia came in and you know, she's a California girl. Collections weren't these massive, sprawling entities to her. She seemed to have, you know, a few things that she liked. Our space expanded and our lives grew together. And so she embraced it. She dove head on into a vintage collection. I mean, she's got Tamagotchis in the box. She's got some Rainbow Bright things, ponies, Popples. I mean, she went all in the collecting world. And that absolutely spiraled my collection out of control because Christmas, birthdays, we're just perpetuating the system nonstop. For me personally, talking about my collecting without mentioning mental health issues would be a real travesty. it's synonymous for me. Not to go too deep on your channel, but I'm a manic depressant. So I go through phases where I'm way up and happy, but then I come crashing down. So sometimes to get through those phases, adding to the collection gives you a small burst of like, all right, I'm feeling good right now. I like to use those little things that I add as artistic inspiration. I want to turn my collecting into more art. I want to be able to create more that other people can engage in and share. So whether I'm painting on canvas or I'm resin casting my own figures, I want to use my collection as inspiration to further share with other people. And I want people to understand that, yeah, we all have a lot of issues going on and all of our brains are a little bit broken. But if we find resources and tools to really build upon that, we're gonna be all right.